you. You're locked in here with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California and member of the National Association of Realtors. But please don't hold that against me. Welcome to 2016, everyone. I hope you had a fantastic New Year's. Things around here were very leg focused. I'm still nursing the torn tendon in the left leg, but on the upside, I am just over 2 weeks away from getting the cast off. That'll mean back to the office and being able to use the better equipment to make the show, so the microphone situation will improve or go back to the way it was. So thank you for your patience and continuing to listen, despite the fact I'm having to use some pretty goofy gear to make the show happen now. I wanted to do a show that sort of, I'm trying to figure out best ways to help move everybody along. And of course, here I'm focused on what your real estate goals are. But I think that obviously for any goals you might have, just having a few more, arrows in your quiver, tools in your toolbox, whatever, it might help you to push these goals closer to being a reality. And it really is just about you committing to it. And I hate to sound like a Tony Robbins thing or something like that, but it really all does just come down to you, and you just need to find whatever it takes to just keep going, even when you feel like you're treading water, when you feel like you're not getting closer. Because I'll tell you what, I've been there. Those moments eventually pass, and you start to make headway. And when you start to get that momentum going, you're going to be surprised. But I'll tell you, it can be a long haul, particularly in real estate. And I think that's one reason why having some tactics, some techniques, and some strategies right there at your fingertips is important. It's one thing to be focused, because you know what? I'll tell you what, some of the hardest things in life are still easier than achieving a lot of your real estate goals. At least with your weight, it's typically, if I exercise this amount or reduce my caloric intake to this amount, I can get on a scale and I can say I'm closer. Right? There's measurements. It's a little harder in real estate because a lot of this has to do with, even if you do everything right, you can potentially not get the outcome that you might have wished for. Now, I want to make sure everyone understands right up front that even the outcome you do not wish for is a positive. And I realize that you can say, well, Robert, how can you call it a positive when my offer isn't accepted, or I don't find the right property I'm looking for in the time that I put down in my goal? Well, I'll tell you, in the process of doing any of those things, you will have learned enough to put yourself head and shoulders above an awful lot of other folks who are trying to do the exact same thing. You have managed to earn the thing that you don't learn when you read, you don't learn when someone else tells you. You have learned right there with hands-on experience how to get to that point, despite the fact that it didn't end the way you wanted. If you get to the point where you write an offer and it's not accepted, hey, as soon as you write that offer and submit it, count that as a success. Check a check mark on a checklist. Cross off a goal. Because that is a crucial step. Because look at all the stuff you have to overcome to get to that. You have to overcome the fear. You have to have gotten together with someone who's a financial person in your life, who's going to give you a pre-approval letter. You had to put everything down in contract form, submit all the bits and pieces that they wanted. You've achieved a great thing in just doing that, even though you haven't gotten the property, or you didn't get what you thought you were going to get, or it didn't work out for whatever reason. You got to that point, and that's a huge achievement. You've overcome obstacles that the vast majority of people before you don't manage to get over. The fear, I think, is probably the number one thing. So I wanted I wanted to try and give you tools, and I'm trying to figure out a way to do this in a more organized fashion. I'm sort of just providing them as I come across them, or as I personally just think of something that has helped me, or that I've noted has helped other folks who I've worked with in the past who've wanted to get into investing in real estate or being involved in real estate in some way, and that worked out for them, things that ended up being positives in their experience that helped move them along. One thing that I'm going to add to this list, I guess, is a bonus item. So we'll call this item 11, maybe, is do not let other people convince you that you're on the wrong track. The one thing that will be no shortage of is is people who have no idea what they're talking about telling you that you can't achieve what you're trying to achieve. They may even have what sound like some pretty reasonable reasons. There's always going to be reasonable reasons to not do something, or at least reasons that are going to sound very reasonable. And I would just tell you to ignore those people. You're going to get a whole lot more out of the experience of because let's for a minute pretend they're right. Okay, let's do that. Let's say that someone gives you some advice and they are 100% absolutely totally correct, and end up what they say is going to happen absolutely comes to pass. Well, even in the course of doing that, you've learned something, but you've also taught yourself that taking that risk and not achieving it doesn't hurt. It doesn't kill you. Your life doesn't end. The universe doesn't point at you and laugh. That one person may point at you and laugh, or they may say, "See, I told you so." But you've pushed through, ignoring the people who tell you to give up on what you're trying to accomplish. But you've also then moved through all the motions that you decided were the right call along the way, and it didn't work out. And the key for you at that point is to just take a look back and see if it was simply circumstances, or if there are things you need to own as someone who's trying to strive for excellence in something. Don't care what it is. If it's real estate, great. I want to try to help you move down that path because I feel like I have something I can offer there. If it's becoming the best, or finding great success in horseback riding, I'm probably not your guy. And I actually know someone who has a podcast about horseback riding, which I can suggest. But anyway, just recognize that's not, well, man, he was right. I should really just give up and go back to the 9 to 5 and forget it. That's not the lesson to take away from that. They may have called it in terms of somehow magically being able to come out, or just because of random chance managed to hit on what was actually going to happen. But you're the one who went through the motions. They were a drive-by critic of what you were doing. You were there for the long haul and pushed all the way through, and you've learned from that experience. And hopefully you've learned something that you can avoid the next time around. All right, so let's start with this is a set of items that I got from Lifehacker, and it's sort of a generic 10 strategies for making your New Year's resolution stick. But we'll go through them, and we'll see if we can't give them a little bit of a spin in the world of real estate. But the point is that these will be valuable for you no matter what you're trying to achieve. So in your life, if you're listening to this show and you're someone with broad interests, and maybe you've got a bunch of goals for 2016, and maybe real estate is just one very small part, these ideas will help you out with all of them. So take note, see if it sounds like a good idea to you, and if it doesn't, maybe try it and see if it doesn't help a little bit in helping you move further down the field towards what your goal is. Now, first, and we talked about this last week in sort of a side comment relating to goals as we were approaching the New Year's, focus on one resolution. I think, and it needs to have a certain level of specificity, right? And particularly in the world of real estate, where it's a whole lot of little steps that end up equaling the end point for you. Whether it's getting to know the neighborhood, coming up with an idea of what types of properties you want to invest in, signing up for a search that emails you properties that meet your requirements, making a contact with a real estate agent so you can get better data, making an appointment and keeping it with a lender lender or several different lenders and getting pre-qualified. All of these various little things are things going to move you forward in this area and help you achieve your goals. So it really depends on what your goal is. I don't know if you want to do a single family residential purchase. Obviously, that's what you search for. If you want to do multifamily, maybe a duplex, maybe a triplex, maybe a quad, whatever, multiple units can be fine. I mean, whatever your goals are, figure out what it is. What is it that you like about it? What are the things that draw you to real estate investment? If it's strictly, I don't care what I do as long as I see a higher return on investment on the other side of the bridge, that's fine. And so I'm sure some folks absolutely are very motivated by that, but I think in order to keep that passion going, there needs to be something else to it. Luckily for me, there's a variety of things involved in real estate that I really enjoy. I love architecture. I love seeing how communities are created. I love seeing how architects have come up with different ways to put together living space. I love the negotiation aspect to it. And I love getting a little bit geeky about the numbers. So it kind of tickles an awful lot of things in my personality that make me enthusiastic about it. So, and that's for me. Whatever it is for you, maybe you're somebody who loves doing the interior decorating side of it, right? See, and I'd love to have someone who's maybe a little bit more skilled in that area on my team. I like to think of myself as someone who can see what a floor plan can be, as far as, if you took down this wall or put a door here or did this or that. I'm good at that. But then that other person who'd come in and come up with a color palette for the home and all these other kinds of wonderful decorative things, I think I could absolutely use somebody like that on my team. But that's me. So focus on one resolution. Number 9, get someone to hold you accountable. This is a big one, and I think it could potentially really make the difference between success or failure. And if we were ranking these in terms of importance, I think I'd almost put this as number 1. Because no matter how sloppy you might be in all the other points, if you don't, even a poorly considered plan is better than no plan at all. And even a fully executed plan with almost no thought into it is better than not doing anything at all, right? Action is better than inaction if when we're talking about goals. So find someone who's going to hold you accountable. This could be your wife. It needs to be someone who's going to be honest with you, though, and take you to task if you're not doing it. With your resolutions this year, you should be kind of saying, here's how much time I want to spend. I want to allot this amount of time to start working towards my goals in real estate. And that person should be checking up. If you've got a daily commitment you want to make, if you've followed from my advice from the previous goal setting series earlier in the year, and you're putting aside 15 minutes a day, or maybe you're not doing that. Maybe you're doing an hour once a week, or whatever your schedule is, you need to share the nitty-gritty of what you're trying to accomplish and what your schedule is. And one way to do that, I think, is to create a Google Calendar for this stuff and share it with the people who are keeping you accountable. Maybe you have more than one. Maybe you're making it a family thing. Maybe it's your wife, and maybe it's your daughter or your son who's now also involved in the process with you, who's helping to push you along and move you forward. And that might be a great thing too, because maybe those are other folks who bring some cool insights into the picture that maybe they're not as much into real estate as you are, but maybe there's some aspect of it. Just like I was speaking a moment ago about someone who would be a great interior designer or might have a better idea, a better flair for colors and decorating and that kind of thing. Well, maybe you've got someone like that in your family, right? And that could be a valuable person to have kind of in your own little personal team down the road. So make sure you've got someone who can keep you accountable, more than one if you like, but create an easy system through which you're being held accountable and people are poking you with a stick when you're not keeping the commitment to yourself. Next, set very, very specific goals. And we talked about this a little bit last week as well. I think the first time we talked about these, I called these micro goals. So that you can see your when you look back behind you, you can see your footprints in the sand. Oh yeah, okay, that's when I learned what an escrow is, and check these things off as you go. Again, you can use the Google Calendar thing and set up goals on there using Google Documents or whatever you want to use. But again, something that your person who's keeping you accountable should be in on, that you should have full visibility of this stuff with whoever's keeping you accountable, and just go with tools that'll work with you. I know, for instance, on my iPhone, I track my goals on my iPhone, and I've got an app. It's like a to-do list, and so that's just how I keep track of that stuff. But keep them very specific so that you don't have months and months. It shouldn't be buy an investment property. It should be all the things that need to happen prior to that, including the knowledge you need to gain, including the contacts you need to make, including the searches that you need to create in order to achieve that goal ultimately. And there's a lot of them, but just take them a step at a time, and you'll find that those steps are easier to take. And when you're able to check off that little checkbox or cross off that item on your list, it's going to be more satisfying when you're able to do that more frequently. Next, piggyback your resolution with existing habits. So if you've got things you already do in your life on a regular basis, whether it's taking vitamins in the morning or brushing your teeth or something you do habitually every single day or at a interval that matches with the goals you're setting for yourself, link those two things together so that you're able to leverage off of an existing habit. Now, this can also be linking with bad habits, I suppose. If you've got a bad habit, maybe you link those two things together so that you're sort of piggybacking a good habit onto your bad habit. I'd love to see you just get rid of your bad habits and turn them into good habits 100%, but go with what works. It's nothing. There's nothing better than being able to take an existing habit and help you leverage it into a new good habit, right along with whatever habit you might already be embracing. Next, give yourself a trial run. Is what they say. Their quote is, "Not every resolution is perfect out of the gate, so don't hold yourself to a poorly formed goal if it just won't work." I think that's a good idea, particularly since we're talking about something in the world of real estate where there's going to be an awful lot of goals that lead up to that ultimate goal. So when you've created a goal and you're sort of trying to work towards it, but you find yourself floundering, thinking, well, you know what, there's 6 different things I need to do to achieve that goal. Well, that should be your clue. You need to go back and rewrite that. It shouldn't be one goal. It should be 6 goals, right? So and whatever will work for you, right? So I mentioned getting pre-approved for a loan, for instance, as a goal. Absolutely, but you know what? There's a ton of things that need to happen before that can be accomplished. One is identify 3 to 5 different sources of money to borrow. I always suggest to folks you talk to a small local bank, talk to a large national bank, and of course whoever you bank with currently should be one bank that you go talk to. You should talk to a credit union, and you should talk to a loan broker. And then maybe additional mixes of more of those until you find the right product. And I'd actually absolutely add Quicken Loans to that list. So you need to contact all of those. And then once you've done that, they're going to give you a list of junk that they need in order to get you pre-qualified. So there you go. Getting pre-qualified for a loan could have as many as 15 different items that you need to accomplish in order for that goal to be met. So if you say, like I suggested a moment ago, get pre-approved for a loan, you may realize that you're floundering there because you didn't think through the specific steps to make that happen, and you needed to make those things goals. So it's about being able to reevaluate your goals and realize, well, maybe I needed to go more micro on those goals. Next, trick your mind. Resolutions are hard to keep without a sense of accomplishment. Having specific gradual goals can help, but another trick is to play some mind games with yourself. Quoting now from the article, the placebo effect can be pretty useful in keeping you motivated, even if you know you're using it on yourself. Focus on anything that makes you feel like you're succeeding. If you're trying to lose weight, eating from smaller plates will make you feel fuller. Even if you're eating the same amount of food, for example, do whatever you need to do to trick your mind, and you'll be well on your way to success. So here's a way to do that in the world of real estate. And you know, I think one thing I would do, I mean, because for me, early on in the process in real estate, I think this was something that I did a lot, was go to open houses. Even if they're for properties that you would not really consider to be something that would fit your specific criteria. Just go out there and walk through the places and look at them, see what they have to offer, make notes of anything you think is really super interesting about the property, and run through the number crunching process to see if it would make sense as a investment. You you know, a lot of times they say you dress for success, or you don't dress for the job you have, you dress for the job you want. In real estate, I think it's more about acting out the way you think for a person who is successful in real estate acts than the dressing side of it, right? It's about taking those actions. It's about building that comfort level with analyzing properties and making it almost a casual thing for you to go and be looking at properties and figuring out what you think about them, and that type of thing. And I think it can breed a comfort that you can then use as you move forward. And then when you do find those properties that make sense, you're already going to have that level of comfort. This is a process you've been going through already with other properties until you found the right one. So by building those habits early, by building that comfort early, you're going to make it more likely you're going to achieve those goals. Now, next, I want you, according to them, this is item number 5, visualize the end result. And what I'm going to suggest is that whatever you're visualizing, you want to shoot for the thing that keeps you passionate about it. Now, I hate to say visualize piles of money or visualize huge amounts of equity. If that's what really does motivate you, if imagining that is what will get you going, go for it. For me, it's a slightly different thing. I mean, I've already told you what I like about the business, so I kind of imagine. I guess when I really picture it in my head, I imagine a portfolio of properties and of different kinds and different styles, and me using them to their highest potential, and so that's kind of what I'm picturing when I'm doing it. And that's actually something else. We're going to do another show on some of the top tools that I use to analyze properties, and there's really one that has sort of taken center stage, and we're going to do a show on that one probably later this week. I wish this was a video medium or a visual medium. You know what? Maybe what that is my first on-demand webinar, so that we can be a video element to it. That'd be a much better idea, because it's a very visual thing. Anyway, sorry, I wandered into the tall grass a little bit there. Next, closely measure your progress. You should have this stuff charted out. You should have a calendar. You should have things that you're checking off as you're accomplishing them. So it's a way. It's just dedicating yourself to tracking your goals, so that you're giving yourself the positive reinforcement that you need and that you deserve, because you're doing the work. Every time you reach one of the goals, even if it's just a daily goal, even if it's just I spent an hour working on various, even if no goal was achieved, the goal of spending that time is achieved. So you should be marking that off as done. And think of it as a chain. All these things are linked to each other, and you just don't want to break that chain. So make sure you're treating each one of these things as a little bit of a victory for you in your steady march towards whatever that goal is that you're visualizing. Number 2, remind yourself of your goals every day. Now, when I first started out, I kept my goals on a piece of paper taped on the mirror in the bathroom. So every day I went in there, brushing my teeth, flossing, doing all that other wonderful stuff. They were right there, and it was a way to remind myself of what I need to be working on. And it's just a way to keep this stuff at front of mind. Think of all the other things in life that jump up in front of it. Oh, I got to pay the power bill. The power bill came yesterday, and it's sitting on the counter. I got to pay back or pay that. The kids have a concert next week. I got to make sure to put that down on my calendar. Got to get gas. Got to remember to do that. All the things that are going to poke into your head. And once that piles up, these goals that really are only critical to you. The only one who's going to raise an alarm if you don't achieve your goal is you. So you need to have it at front of mind so that you do raise that alarm. So you say, oh, you know what? In 5 minutes, I got to sit down and have my dedicated time. Or hopefully your phone or your whatever you're using to keep yourself on schedule dings at you and says it's time. But you're staying on target. It's always at the front of your mind. You're always keeping your goals right there, front and center, so that you're not letting all the other things in life fall behind, right? If you forget to go to the grocery store, you forget to get gas, there's plenty of other things in the universe that are going to remind you that you didn't do that. By not giving the time due that you should to your goals, they can fade away, right? Which is another reason why having someone who's keeping you honest or keeping you on task is also so important. All right. Number 1, start right now. Even poorly considered goals are better than none at all. Have something written down. Even if they're the crappiest of crappy goals, have something written down. As long as you go through and you've got these, you start with something like that, and even if they're one of these goals that ends up having to get diced up into 30 different goals, at least have something down. Because you know what? You can set that first goal today. Then when you hit that hour or the 15 minutes or whatever time you've allotted for you to focus on achieving your goals, you can break those up into smaller goals. But right now, right this minute, as soon as this thing is over, I want you to get a pad of paper, to pull out your iPhone, to pull out your iPad, to pull out your Android, whatever it is that you use to take notes or keep track of your goals, whatever it is you're using, I want you to start writing them down and start today. Just start now. Don't save it for Friday. Don't save it for Saturday. Do it right now. As soon as you, so I'm assuming a lot of you are going to be commuting at this time. As soon as you walk into the office and sit at your desk, first thing I want you to do is write down that first goal. Just get started. Just take that first step, and the rest is just for you to accomplish and follow through on. But that first step is sometimes the hardest for folks. So if you can just get that ball rolling, that can make the difference between success and failure. All right, everybody. I hope that's been at least a little bit helpful. If you'd like to reach out and get in touch with me, you can find me over at www.therebelbroker.com. I'd love to hear your questions, ideas, suggestions, or if there are any topics in real estate that just confuse, scare, or make you want to let your eyes roll into the back of your head, feel free to share those with me. I'd be happy to try and clarify them and make them less scary on the show, because I got to figure for every one of you who might ask a question like that, there's got to be hundreds of others who have the same concern. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I hope we're going to have a fantastic 2016, and I'll be talking to you tomorrow.